actually do a segue from the last topic into this one in terms of television shows. And hey, maybe even just this kind of ties into one of the shows that I watch that is currently in production. I don't know. I kind of treat like Netflix originals as their own beast, because they kind of get dropped all at once, and then that's it. And you have to kind of wait another year or more for more content. But Dear White People season number 2 is on Netflix, streaming now. If you have never watched Dear White People, you absolutely should. If you're thinking to yourself, oh, Dear White People, is this going to be some sort of racist diatribe? You should definitely watch this show. It's very, very good, very, very well very, very well presented. I absolutely loved the first season of the show, and the second season I thought did a lot of really good work, building on the world that the first season of the show created. It's based on a film which is also on Netflix, so make sure that you scope out the Netflix original series. I haven't seen the movie yet. I'm sure it's okay. I haven't sat down to watch it, just because like the Dear White People that I know is the one that I love. And it's about sort of a fictional Ivy League campus, and some of the race problems that they actually end up having on their campus. And damn, it was real good. Again, no spoilers. I watched the whole thing in about one night, one sitting almost. I think I left myself one episode for the morning. Man, episode number 8. God damn. Real good. Of course, you're going to need to have seen season 1 for it to have the emotional resonance that it should have. But what? Very, very, very good. And very much of its time. Which is, that's the segue here, guys, to a real-life Ivy League campus with some race problems. Yes, we're talking about Yale. And if you don't know the story so far, this past Tuesday, Yale police officers were called by a grad student by the name of Sarah Brash, graduate student set to graduate in 2020, who called to report an unknown woman sleeping in one of the grad students' study lounge areas. Student herself, by the name of Loland Cianbola, which I'm probably murdering the pronunciation of her name, and I apologize for that, as I always do, because I'm bad at names. I work in a call center, and it is one of the most hellacious parts of my job is just knowing that I'm going to screw up somebody's name, even after they've repeated it to me. I just am bad at names. Actually, complete sidetrack here. I had a woman call not too long ago whose name, her honest to God first name was Honor, and I felt so weird saying it, because I felt like she was just punking me. You know what I mean? But no, she responded to the name Honor the entire time through the call. So I guess it was her name, but you know what? Here we are. So early Tuesday morning, Yale police officers were called because of this black woman who had every right to be there, was napping in public. Now, I worked in campus security before. It was a small campus that I went to, so I had a pretty good sense of, I've definitely seen you around if you go to the school. So there's very little chance of me mistaking you for, just some vagrant. But certainly, if I ever had any doubt, I could ask to see any kind of credentials very, very quickly, and just ask to see your student ID if I had any doubt. We also just didn't run into a situation a whole hell of a lot where anybody would call in, for us to apprehend somebody or anything like that. That wasn't really our job, of course. We weren't like a campus police. We were just campus security, basically. I don't even think that was the title. We were just patrol. But anyhow, for 15 minutes they interrogated this woman. And according to a public statement by Yale Police Chief Ronell Higgins, Sarah Brash told the police in her call that she did not know who this woman was. Of course, more information has come out through the week that Sarah Brash probably did have a pretty damn good idea who this woman was, because she had previously called campus police on her before for a separate incident. Now, there's a lot of questions that can be had about, whether or not we should be dragging the name of this woman, Sarah Brash, through the mud. Now you're noticing probably that I'm saying the name Sarah Brash quite often, and that I'm not refraining from saying the name Sarah Brash through the course of my discussing of this story. That's because the name Sarah Brash is one that should be repeated often. Sarah Brash is probably a pretty big racist, and if not a pretty big racist, she probably needs to take a look at herself in the fucking mirror, and actually understand that she holds some pretty some pretty fucked up views. Maybe not at the forefront of her mind. Maybe she's not like an out and out, an overt, pointy white hat wearing racist. She maybe didn't even vote for Donald Trump, but it's pretty clear to me that based on some of her previous public statements and previous writing, that she maybe holds some latent racist views. Which, shout out to my friend Katie Toth for referring to debating as nerd sport, which is wonderful. So in a article that Brash wrote for a website called The Humanist, she describes herself taking part in an academic style debate, which I've done many times. And in that sort of context, you do end up playing sort of devil's advocate. You do start spouting off some views. I've certainly said some things through the course of a debate that I definitely don't agree with in my personal day-to-day. But it's a matter of thinking through things critically and coming up with a cogent argument. And sometimes that argument is not going to be one that you agree with. It's not going to be one that you even find palatable. It's certainly not going to be something that you would certainly co-sign in your day-to-day. But Sarah wrote in a debate that was about a debate that she was having about race relations and about the effects of slavery on black people, even today, basically. She wrote, and then I had a eureka moment. Some, not many, but some of the slaves didn't want to stop being slaves. Small number wanted to remain with their owners and returned even after having been freed. I knew that I had just won the debate. Indeed, I did. I led our team to victory. The pro-slavery contingent defeated the abolitionists, because in a democracy, in the land of the free, who are we to tell people that they can't be slaves if they want to be? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, it's one thing to bring that up into a debate, but it's a whole nother thing to actually take the time to write an op-ed or to write an article about your fucking, and again, shout out to Katie Toth, nerd sport, victory, based on, arguing something that's some fucking bullshit. Some fucking racist bullshit. And hey, within the context of that debate, if I were judging that debate and the debaters had put forward an interesting argument, and they had put forward it with style, and that was the basis of their argumentation, is that choosing to be a slave is a thing, then sure, great. I may have sat down and actually engaged with that. Maybe had given that team the win, but that doesn't actually work in real life, because all you have to do is take it aside and sort of say, yeah, but subjugating a person isn't a choice. It's subjugation. It's kind of against one's will, regardless. So I don't know. To me, I think that from what I can tell in terms of things that I'm writing, Yale is engaging with this in at least the sort of the right way from a PR standpoint. They're engaging in the right acts in terms of making the right questions and all this sort of stuff and whatever. I just kind of hope that Sarah Brash doesn't become a regular on the Fox News pundit circles based on her new derided as being, I'm in this liberal arts world, and I'm not dealing with your identity politics or whatever. To me, like that just seems like a boring and predictable sort of standpoint. I hope that Sarah Brash is given the opportunity to actually engage with what are probably some pretty latent, and I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she has these latent views. It doesn't mean that she's a blatant racist. She might be a latent racist. You know what I'm saying? Like, it may be a situation where she holds these views at the deep down bottom of her core, but she doesn't realize that they're there. And if pressed in person, she would probably say, no, I'm not a racist. I don't think about things anything differently. But she still probably crosses the road when she runs into a black guy. You know what I'm saying? She probably still crosses the road. And like, hell, I definitely personally have some of that work to do myself internally. I'm willing to admit that. But goddamn, you cannot tell me that you don't need to do some of that self-reflection. If you call the cops on the same girl twice and say that you don't know who she is the second time, good Lord. That's some ridiculous shit. Speaking of ridiculous shit, we're going to move on from here because that's all I really have to say about the whole Sarah Brash thing. We're going to move on to some news a little bit closer to home. John lives in an interesting neighborhood, take number 2. I think the last time we talked about this, there was a fire over in the superstore next to my apartment. This time, some interesting stuff that was going on over the golf course near my place. After this. So I live very, very close to a golf course here in Halifax. It's the Ashburn Golf Course. It's right next to the 102 highway, the Bicentennial Highway, coming into the city from elsewhere. You know, the valley, that sort of direction. 5:49 a.m. on Tuesday morning, a stolen truck was located very nearby to the golf course, and a couple of figures were seen running away from the stolen truck. So one of the officers, there's a couple of officers who are on scene, goes looking, and they go down the foot trail that kind of exists. It's on Joseph Drive, and kind of goes past the golf course, goes all the way down to sort of Chain Lakes Drive, Chain Lakes Trail. It's a beautiful walk. I like going down it during the summer months. Enjoy it as a walk. It's also a nice bike ride, and it's a fairly popular running track. So anyhow, this officer goes down the walking trail and actually comes across what ends up being our two suspects. He approaches to speak to them at about 5 to 6 in the morning, and one of the suspects stabs him before the pair flee on foot. What? What the hell? Like, okay, here's before we get into the rest of the craziness of this story. You're guilty of Grand Theft Auto, okay? You're guilty of stealing a car, or a truck in this case, I guess. Cop comes up to you and is going to question you. Your first instinct is not to say, nope, that wasn't us. It wasn't to say, they went that way, officer. No, it's to fucking stab the officer? What the fuck? So anyhow, the officer in question, a gentleman by the name of Constable Andrew Gordon. I will say just off the top, he's in fine condition. He underwent surgery and was okay in the end. So I mean, like, obviously at this point it's a manhunt trying to find these two suspects. So they get the K9 unit in full effect, and of course everything starts to get taped off, and it causes some pretty crazy early morning traffic for a lot of folks who were on their way to my school. And I know there were some folks who were late for my class as a result of all of this activity. So yeah, they start searching the area with the police dogs around 6 a.m., find and arrest a 15-year-old girl, and then later on, about 20 minutes later, they find a 15-year-old boy who they think is the second suspect. These kids were 15? What the hell? Again, like, it's absolutely mind-boggling that